Hey Philip, okay, this message is going to only you, okay? So, yeah, even though it's on YouTube, it's such a private and you're the only one invited, but I wanted this written down for prosperity so I didn't forget what I said. And then also, um, I was so busy anyway that I was worried about our schedules not fitting up for forever before I actually managed to get this information to you. So I had lunch with Michael Dewey just informally just to catch up, and we ended up spending like 2 hours talking about Texas Flagger Weekend and nonprofits and how to make that event profitable. So there are a lot of things we talked about, so I'm just gonna like expunge them all here and give them to you and then see what you think about it. So one of the main things we talked about was the function of a nonprofit. I thought a nonprofit was just a board of people, a group, who made decisions together. But in fact, there's actually like a division, like a hierarchy to a nonprofit that makes a really, really, really big difference. So it's visual, and this piece of paper is yours once you get it. So basically, you can see that the board is divided into two halves. And I will sit down and re-talk about this later. Okay, so what happens is this top half is the board, okay? And these are the decision makers. These are the voting people, okay? But they're all volunteers. That's the important thing. All these people that are on the board, they volunteer the time and they don't get paid anything. And the reason is because if you're making decisions about the future of the nonprofit, then you should not be able to like vote a raise for yourself, for example. So then what it does is it makes two groups of people. This group that make key decisions but don't get paid, and then this group of these two groups right here who uh, are basically the people that do all the creating of the event. Okay, so this is the artistic director here. This one, okay? So the artistic director, can you see that? Reports to the board, okay? And the artistic director is basically they get paid to put on the event. They create the direction and all of that jazz, right? And then you have this executive director or general manager or, you know, whatever. He had like 20 names. And they're basically the producer. They're in charge of the money side of it, the fundraising, the making sure that it's profitable, okay? So what I kind of saw out of this is that what I see your main role is actually artistic director, and that you and I had talked about that. What I did not know existed was this executive director thing. So this is kind of what, okay, other side. This is kind of like what I could see my role as. You know, for a 2-year term of really committing to getting the legal stuff and the paperwork and the administration around Texas Flagger Weekend handled, right? And so what happens is that creates this natural tension between these two groups because because this person is in charge of, you know, okay, is it you know, profitable? Is it blah blah blah? And then this person is like, we need to make it look right. It needs to be a good event. What's like the quality of the event? So that creates a natural tension, but that's great, right? Then there's also a natural tension between the volunteer board, the board that runs things, and then these two people, you know, and then they end up pleading their case for the different things that the board is going to vote on, depending on, you know, their own interests, like the quality of the event versus the affordability of the event, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these little price tags, in case you're wondering what those are, those would be like salaries or stipends that these people get on this level. And this breakdown in particular, it's different for every organization, but given your history in the organization, you would have like a much larger paycheck than me. But anyway, that was one idea. This is one concept for a board, and what that does is it allows you to get paid to run Texas Flagger Weekend, which is ultimately what you should be doing, right? Now, none of this matters until there's more money raised in order to pay for it, right? Because that's essentially why we're not doing it this year, is because there's no money for it. So that's where I would come in and I would help get sponsors and all of that and be doing that work and then hopefully getting paid for that so that I can justify it to Dave, to myself, etc. So so another key difference, as you can see, is that this is your voting board. So the people on the board, which ideally you'd have, anywhere from 3 to 7 people on this volunteer board, and then there's no overlap. So the people working in the organization getting paid are not in the board. Okay, so now this board would be making decisions about the direction and stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, and when we're looking for board members, so the idea I would think is that if you are interested in pursuing this further, that you and I down here would be picking out people to be on that board. He recommended that they be local because of the number of meetings. It's all a function of the number of meetings and all of that. And there's some other things that I'm going to talk about next that play into that too. Also, here's the 3 W's. I thought this was really good. Wait, where is it? There it is. So when you're picking out a board member, you want them to have some combination of these 3 things. Wealth, workers, meaning they're hard workers, right? They're driven workers. They're putting in the time and energy. And wisdom. So wealth, work, and wisdom. Those are the 3 things you're looking for in a board member. Ideally, they would have all 3, but if not, some combination on the board. So the board needs to be made up of all 3 of these elements. If you have all people with money, you're not have any work done. If you have all people with wisdom and no money, then you're not going to be able to do the weekend at all. If you have all workers and no wisdom, then you have people working really hard and making bad decisions. So anyway, that was interesting. So then the other big insight into Texas Flagger Weekend, and he tried to convey this to you and me last time, but I didn't really get it until this talk with Michael. And this was all unplanned, but it really was eye-opening for me. And that was this question of what is, who is Texas Flagger Weekend supporting? And we kind of went round and around and around. And basically what happens is, it can't, if it's a nonprofit, it has to have a group of people that benefit from it, that it's in service to, And I thought that the people attending the weekend was service enough. Not really. Because it needs to be some sort of contribution to Dallas. If we're going to get these sponsors and stuff, we need some sort of contribution, right? So then I thought that it would be set up like a circuit party, where the weekend is more like these circuit parties, and then we raise money and we give it to other organizations, right? But as we started to put that together, we realized that if the whole purpose of this organization was to just give money to other organizations, then why don't those organizations just go to the people that are already throwing parties or throw their own party? Like, why would they want us? And all this Flagger Weekend stuff. So then that, the whole time I'm looking like, how can Texas Flagger Weekend support people and contribute to society? And finally, finally, we came to the conclusion that it's the best model for Texas Flagger Weekend is actually like the Dallas Black Ballet or the Dallas Symphony, any of these other arts groups. What do you call them? Like performance groups. So that basically Texas Flagger Weekend is a performance group. And so then the Texas Flagger Weekend is one of the events, like a comedy troupe has comedy weekends or a theater has acting classes. Texas Flagger Weekend is a weekend that anybody can come to, but its main purpose is to put more flaggers into the Flagger troupe. So then we start to structure this and look for people that want to support the Texas Flaggers, or whatever the name is, the board will vote on that, who wants to support that, much like the Dallas Symphony has people that support the Dallas Symphony, and they go and they enjoy the shows. So that changes the structure a lot from what I was originally thinking, but it totally supports everything you're doing, and it has you suddenly able to write off all of your Flagger trips to Thailand and stuff like that, because it's now a troupe. Even if it's just you going, it's still a troupe. So, and then also you can get paid to go, whereas if you were on the board, you wouldn't get paid to go, right? Because the board's volunteer. So if we make you artistic director and make this a troupe that you're like the superstar in, then all of a sudden